If you are taking levodopa every single day, and you still shake, you still stiffen up at the doorway, and you still fight your bowels every morning, I want you to look at your breakfast plate before you blame the pill. Because right now, in kitchens all across America, someone with Parkinson's is sitting down to scrambled eggs, a tall glass of milk, maybe a protein shake because somebody told them older folks need more protein, and they swallow their medication right along with that meal. Then, an hour later, they wonder why the medicine feels like it never showed up. Here is what almost nobody explains at the pharmacy counter. The protein in that meal and the levodopa in that pill travel through the exact same doorway into your bloodstream. The very same one. And protein is bigger and louder, and there is a whole lot more of it. So your medicine ends up standing in line behind your breakfast. For a lot of people, that single habit is the difference between a good afternoon and a rough one. So here is what I am giving you today, and I want you to stay with me all the way to the end. The 7 best foods to eat regularly when you are living with Parkinson's, and exactly why each one earns its place. The protein timing mistake that quietly weakens your medication, and how to fix it without ever changing a single dose on your own. And a simple 3-step gut protocol you can start tonight, because your bowels are not a side issue in Parkinson's. They are part of the main story. Let's get into it. Let me explain one thing quickly, because once you understand it, every tip today will make sense. For a long time, people thought of Parkinson's as strictly a brain condition. Tremor, stiffness, slow movement, balance. All brain. But ask someone who has lived with this for years, what came first, and you hear the same things over and over. Constipation, sometimes for years before the tremor. A sense of smell that faded so slowly, they barely noticed. Trouble sleeping. A stomach that felt full too fast. Those are gut signals, and they often show up early. Your intestines have their own dense network of nerves, so many that people call it a second brain, and it runs a two-way conversation with your head all day long. Inside that gut, you also have trillions of bacteria. When that community is balanced, it helps calm inflammation and keeps the intestinal lining sealed. When it is out of balance, the lining gets leaky, inflammation rises, and that low-grade inflammation does not politely stay in your belly. It travels. There is also a protein called alpha-synuclein that misfolds and clumps together in the Parkinson's brain. Those same clumps have been found in the nerve cells of the gut wall. Researchers are still working out exactly what that means, but you do not need the final answer to take the practical lesson, and the lesson is this. What you feed your gut is not separate from what you are doing for your brain. And one more piece that is very immediate. Levodopa is absorbed in your small intestine, not your stomach, which means the pill has to leave your stomach first. In Parkinson's, the stomach very often empties slowly. Add constipation on top of that, and you have a delivery problem. The medicine is fine, the road is congested. So when we fix the gut, we do 2 jobs at once. We support the brain, and we improve the delivery system for the medication you already take. Now let's talk about the timing mistake. Levodopa is what we call a large neutral amino acid. That is a mouthful, so let's simplify it. Levodopa looks a lot like the building blocks of protein, so much alike that your intestine uses the exact same transporter, the same little shuttle bus, to carry both of them into your blood, and later, the same kind of shuttle carries them across into your brain. There are only so many seats on that bus. So picture this. You take your morning dose and wash it down with a big glass of milk, or a protein smoothie, or you eat a plate of eggs and sausage 20 minutes later. Now you have flooded your intestine with amino acids, thousands of them, all pushing toward the same shuttle. Your single levodopa tablet is one passenger in an enormous crowd. Some of it gets through, a lot of it does not, or it gets through late, or it comes in a slow dribble instead of a clean rise. And what does that feel like from the inside? It feels like the pill did not work. It feels like your medicine is getting weaker. it feels like you are getting worse. Check yourself against this right now. Does your medication seem to work beautifully on an empty stomach, but fall flat after a big meal? Do you have a good morning, and then a strangely stiff, sluggish afternoon that follows a hearty lunch? Do your off periods seem to cluster right after eating? If you just nodded at even one of those, type the word timing in the comments. I want to see how many of you recognize this pattern, because it is far more common than most people realize. Now, the fix. And I want to be very clear here. We are not reducing your protein. Protein matters enormously after 60. It protects your muscle, your bones, your immune system, and it helps you stay steady on your feet. Cutting protein is not the answer, and it can genuinely hurt you. We are not changing your dose either, not 1 milligram, not without your neurologist. What we are changing is the clock, that is all. We separate the meeting time, so your medicine and your protein are not fighting in the same hallway. Here is what that looks like in real life. The principle most movement disorder specialists work from is to take levodopa on a relatively empty stomach, commonly about 30 to 60 minutes before a meal, or an hour or two after one, washed down with a full glass of plain water. Water, not milk, not a smoothie, not a creamy coffee drink. Then, if protein is clearly interfering, some people work with their doctor on what is called protein redistribution. You keep your total daily protein the same, but you shift most of it toward the evening, when you have less need for sharp, precise medication response, so your daytime doses come through cleanly. A day might look roughly like this, and I stress the word roughly, because your schedule has to be built around your prescription, not mine. Morning dose with water, breakfast about half an hour later, built around fruit, oats, and fiber rather than eggs and milk. Lunch that is mostly vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fat, with only a modest amount of protein. Then dinner is where the real protein lands. The fish, the chicken, the beans, the whole serving. Some people also find a small amount of gentle carbohydrate before a dose, like a few crackers or a little applesauce, settles the stomach without competing at all. That is worth asking your doctor about. Does the type of protein matter? To a degree, yes. Animal proteins like beef, dairy, and eggs are dense and concentrated. They deliver a large load of competing amino acids quickly, and dairy adds calcium, which can also bind up medication in the gut. Plant proteins like beans, lentils, and nuts come packaged with fiber, so the release is slower and the surge is gentler. That does not make animal protein bad. It just means a big steak or a tall glass of milk right on top of your dose is the worst possible timing, while a bowl of lentils at dinner is easy to manage. Let me name the 4 mistakes I see most often. 1. Taking the pill with milk or a dairy-heavy coffee. 2. A protein shake in the morning, inside the medication window, which is common because people are trying to do the right thing for their muscles. 3. A large, high-protein lunch, which sabotages the entire afternoon. And 4. Snacking on cheese, jerky, or nuts all day long, so the gut never clears and there is never a truly clean window for a dose. And here is the most important sentence in this section. Do not stop your medication. Do not skip a dose. Do not lower a dose. And do not start a protein redistribution plan on your own. Because when protein stops blocking the drug can suddenly work stronger than your body is used to, and that needs supervision. Bring this to your neurologist or pharmacist and say, I would like to talk about the timing of my meals around my levodopa. That one sentence will get you a very productive appointment. All right, now the food choices are going to land much harder. Here are the 7. Number 1. Deep-colored berries. Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, dark cherries. The darker the color, the better. That deep purple and red pigment comes from compounds called anthocyanins. In Parkinson's, dopamine-producing neurons are under constant chemical stress, a kind of internal rust, and these compounds act as a buffer against exactly that. Long-term dietary studies Keep finding that people with the highest intake of these colorful plant compounds tend to do better over time. Berries also feed the beneficial bacteria in your colon, and the fiber keeps you regular, which protects your medication delivery. How much? About 1 cup a day. Fresh in season. Frozen the rest of the year. Frozen berries are picked ripe and frozen fast, so they are not second best. They are affordable, and they last for months. How to actually eat it. A cup of frozen berries stirred into warm oatmeal. Berries on unsweetened yogurt in the evening. A handful eaten straight from the freezer as an afternoon snack. No recipe required. One note. Berries are naturally low in protein, so they sit comfortably in your morning medication window. That is exactly why they belong at breakfast. Number 2. Dark leafy greens. Spinach, kale, collard greens, Swiss chard, romaine. These are one of the richest sources of folate, along with magnesium, potassium, and lutein. Folate matters because it helps your body manage homocysteine, a compound that tends to run high in people taking levodopa long-term and is linked with more inflammation. Greens also deliver nitrates that support blood flow to the brain, and plenty of fiber for your good bacteria. How much? 1 to 2 cups raw, or about half a cup cooked, most days. Cooked greens are often easier after 60 because they are gentler to chew, and they cook down into a manageable portion. How to actually eat it. A handful of spinach wilted into scrambled eggs at dinner, chopped kale dropped into soup, or canned chili in the last few minutes. Greens sautéed in olive oil with garlic. If chewing or swallowing is difficult, blend them into a soup. 2 notes. Greens are high in vitamin K, which interacts with blood-thinning medication. The rule is not to avoid them, it is to be consistent, week to week, and tell your doctor. And greens do contain some protein, so a very large serving belongs at dinner rather than in your morning dose window. Number 3. Fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring, trout. These are the best food sources of the long-chain omega-3 fats, especially DHA. Your brain is built substantially out of fat, and DHA is one of its building blocks. It keeps neuron membranes flexible and helps dial down neuroinflammation, the smoldering immune activation in the brain that appears to accelerate the loss of dopamine neurons. How much? 2 to 3 servings a week, about 3 to 4 ounces each, roughly the size of your palm. Canned salmon and canned sardines count fully. They are inexpensive, they need no cooking, and the soft edible bones in sardines add calcium. How to actually eat it. Canned salmon with olive oil and lemon on whole grain toast. Sardines on crackers. A fillet baked at 400 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes with olive oil and pepper. Frozen fish is perfectly fine. Here is the critical note. Fish is real, concentrated protein. So this is a dinner food, or it belongs at whatever meal your doctor has approved as your main protein meal. Do not eat a salmon lunch on top of a midday dose and then wonder why your afternoon is stiff. Number 4. Fermented foods, kept away from your dose. Plain unsweetened yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, and pickled vegetables that are truly fermented rather than just sitting in vinegar. These deliver live beneficial bacteria straight into your digestive tract. A healthier bacterial community helps reduce gut inflammation, helps maintain the intestinal barrier, and, very practically, tends to improve constipation, which improves the reliability of your medication. How much? Something fermented once a day, half a cup of plain yogurt, or 3/4 of a cup of kefir, or 2 to 3 tablespoons of sauerkraut or kimchi beside a meal. Start small, because a sudden large amount can cause gas and bloating the first week. How to actually eat it. Plain yogurt with berries and ground flaxseed in the evening. Kefir poured over the same. A forkful of sauerkraut next to dinner. Choose plain and unsweetened, because flavored products often carry a startling amount of added sugar. 2 notes. Yogurt and kefir contain both protein and calcium, and both compete with levodopa, so this is an evening food, not something to swallow your pill with. And if you take an MAO-B inhibitor, ask your pharmacist about aged and fermented foods, because some contain tyramine. Most people are fine with normal food amounts, but that is a 30-second conversation worth having. Number 5. Walnuts and ground flaxseed. I am pairing these two, because together they do something nothing else on this list does as neatly. Walnuts are the highest nut source of the plant-based omega-3, and they carry polyphenols that support brain health. Ground flaxseed brings that same fat plus a soluble fiber called mucilage, which absorbs water and softens stool. For constipation in Parkinson's, ground flax is one of the most affordable, most boring, and most effective things you can do. How much? About 1 ounce of walnuts daily, roughly 14 halves, and 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. The word ground is not optional. Whole flax seeds pass straight through you without releasing anything. Buy it pre-ground or grind it yourself and keep it in the refrigerator, because the oils go rancid quickly at room temperature. How to actually eat it. A tablespoon of ground flax stirred into oatmeal, yogurt, applesauce, or soup, where you will not taste it at all. Walnuts on your yogurt, chopped into a salad, or as an afternoon snack. Important note: any high-fiber food can slow medication absorption if you take them at the same moment, so separate flax from your levodopa by a couple of hours, and always drink a full glass of water with it. Fiber without water makes constipation worse, not better. That is the single most common mistake people make with fiber. If ground flaxseed is new to you, say flax in the comments, and I will know to make a deeper video on gut-friendly fiber for Parkinson's. Number 6. Green tea. Green tea contains a compound called EGGG. In laboratory research, EGGG has shown an ability to interfere with the clumping together of alpha-synuclein, the misfolded protein we talked about earlier, and it has clear antioxidant effects. Green tea also contains L-theanine, which many people find gives a calm, steady alertness without the jitteriness of coffee. Let me be honest about what this is and is not. Green tea is not a treatment and not a substitute for anything you have been prescribed. It is a low-risk, pleasant daily habit with an interesting mechanism behind it, and that is a perfectly good reason to drink it. How much? 1 to 3 cups a day. If caffeine bothers your sleep, keep it before mid-afternoon, or choose decaffeinated green tea, which still contains catechins. How to drink it. Steep 2 to 3 minutes in water that is hot but not boiling, because boiling water makes it bitter. No sugar. A squeeze of lemon is fine. 2 notes. Green tea binds iron, and iron interferes with levodopa absorption, so keep your tea about an hour away from your dose. And if you are anemic, mention the tea to your doctor. Number 7. Turmeric with black pepper. Turmeric is the yellow spice in curry, and its active compound is curcumin, studied extensively for its anti-inflammatory effects. Given that chronic low-grade inflammation is part of the Parkinson's picture, turmeric is a sensible daily addition. But there is a catch most people miss. Curcumin on its own is absorbed terribly. Black pepper contains a compound called piperine that dramatically increases how much you actually absorb, and curcumin is fat-soluble, so it also needs fat to travel. Turmeric alone in hot water does very little. Turmeric with black pepper and a source of fat is a completely different situation. How much? Half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon daily, with a generous pinch of black pepper and some fat in the meal, like olive oil, avocado, or the fat already in the fish. How to eat it. Stir it into soup, scrambled eggs, rice, or roasted vegetables before they go in the oven. The flavor is mild and earthy and disappears into savory food. 1 note. Turmeric, in concentrated supplement form, can thin the blood, so if you are on a blood thinner, have gallstones, or have surgery scheduled, Talk to your doctor before going beyond normal cooking amounts. Those are the 7. And I know some of you are wondering about the other side of this, the foods that work against you. I covered that in a separate video on this channel, so I am not repeating it here. Today we stay focused on what to put in, and on the timing. Let me put all of this into one ordinary day. Adjust every time here to match your own prescription, because your dose times come first, and the food arranges itself around them. Early morning. Your first dose with a full glass of plain water, on an empty stomach. Breakfast, about 30 minutes later. This is your antioxidant and fiber meal, deliberately light on protein. Oatmeal with a cup of berries, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, a little cinnamon. Save the green tea for later in the morning. Mid-morning, a cup of green tea, and a small piece of fruit if you are hungry. Lunch, balanced, colorful, still modest on protein. A big salad with dark greens and olive oil, a small serving of beans or a modest portion of chicken, and whole grain bread. Vegetable soup with a spoon of turmeric works beautifully too. The goal is to feel satisfied without loading the afternoon with a wall of amino acids. Mid-afternoon, a handful of walnuts or fruit and water. Keep it away from your dose time. Dinner. This is your main protein meal, assuming your doctor agrees. Baked salmon. Roasted vegetables with turmeric, black pepper, and olive oil. Sautéed greens on the side. Evening. Plain yogurt or kefir, with berries and ground flaxseed. Your fermented food, your fiber, and your antioxidants in one bowl, sitting far away from your morning dose window. And throughout the day, water, steadily. 6 to 8 glasses if your doctor has not restricted your fluids. Dehydration makes constipation worse, it makes blood pressure drops worse, and it makes fiber backfire. Look at that day. Nothing exotic, nothing expensive, nothing you cannot buy in an ordinary grocery store on an ordinary Tuesday. Now let's talk about constipation, because for many people this is the most miserable and least discussed part of living with Parkinson's. And remember, this is not only about comfort. A backed-up system slows everything down, including how your medication moves and how it is absorbed. 3 steps you can start tonight, and every one of them is built on food. Step 1. Soluble fiber at dinner. 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed stirred into your food. If you want more, stewed prunes or pears, or a bowl of oatmeal in the evening. Soluble fiber pulls water in and makes stool soft and easy to pass, which is what you want, rather than adding bulk to a system that is already sluggish. Step 2. Water with it, and not a sip. A full 8 to 16 ounce glass at the time you take the fiber, and another before bed if your bladder allows it. Then a warm glass first thing in the morning, because warm liquid triggers a natural reflex that gets the colon moving. Fiber without water is the #1 reason people try fiber, feel worse, and give up. Step 3. Fermented food in the evening. Half a cup of plain yogurt, a glass of kefir, or a few forkfuls of sauerkraut with dinner. Beneficial bacteria at the end of the day, well away from your medication window. And one small addition that is not food but multiplies everything above. After dinner, take a slow 10-minute walk. Around the house is fine. Gentle movement after eating stimulates the natural wave motion of the intestines. If walking is difficult, sit comfortably and do 5 minutes of slow, deep belly breathing, letting your abdomen rise and fall. That gentle internal massage genuinely helps. Do those 3 steps plus the walk for 1 week, and most people notice a real difference. If nothing changes after a week or 2, or if you have pain, or blood, or a sudden change in your pattern, that is a conversation with your doctor, not something to manage alone. Let's make this easy to actually do. Here is your checklist for the next 7 days. 1. Take your levodopa with plain water only, on a relatively empty stomach, on whatever schedule your doctor has set. 2. Move your heaviest protein toward the evening, and talk to your neurologist or pharmacist before you make that shift permanent. 3. 1 cup of berries every day. 4. Dark leafy greens on most days. 5. Fatty fish 2 to 3 times this week, at dinner. 6. 1 fermented food daily, in the evening. 7. 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed with a full glass of water daily, green tea between doses, and turmeric with black pepper in your dinner. 7 items. You do not have to be perfect. If you hit 5 of them most days, you are doing better than the vast majority of people. Now I want to hear from you, because this is the part that helps everyone else watching. In the comments, tell me 2 things. First, which one food from this list you are adding this week? Just name it. And second, tell me 1 protein or medication timing mistake you have made, or one you did not know about until today. Maybe it was the morning milk, maybe the protein shake, maybe the big lunch. Somebody else is going to read your comment and recognize their own life in it, and that is worth more than anything I can say. And if this was useful, share it with the person in your family who needs to hear it, because so often, the person managing the medications and the meals is not the person with the diagnosis. Here is my last thought for you. Parkinson's takes a lot of control away from people. It takes your hands, your steadiness, your voice, your timing. But what goes on your plate, and when, is still entirely yours. It is one of the few levers you still hold with both hands. Use it. One short note before I go. I am sharing general educational information here, not medical advice for your specific situation. Nothing in this video replaces your neurologist, your primary care doctor, or your pharmacist. Do not stop, skip, or change any medication based on a video, including this one. Bring these ideas to your next appointment and build a plan together. Take care of yourself, eat well, and I will see you in the next one.